Good evening. This is Daryl Brugink, Executive Editor with No-Till Farmer, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's webinar where we're going to take the opportunity to delve deeper into applied fertilizer, and more specifically, we're going to share some on-farm experiences, some ways on how you might be able to reduce your applied fertilizer rates without really compromising your yields or your profitability. And here tonight to help us with that goal is no-tiller Mike Starkey of Brownsburg, Indiana. Mike is a past winner of the Responsible Nutrient Management Practitioners Program that we feature each year at the National No-Tillage Conference. His farm is located just to the northwest corner of the city of Indianapolis, and he's right at the base of the Eagle Creek Watershed. And that's important to the discussion as well. That Eagle Creek Reservoir supplies the drinking water for the city of Indianapolis. So obviously, when you have that kind of situation, that watershed is under some pretty close scrutiny. I do want to take a moment now to thank Agro-Culture Liquid Fertilizers for supporting and sponsoring tonight's webinar and making it possible for us to present this topic this evening. Agriculture has been a co-sponsor of the Responsible Nutrient Management Practitioners Program and also a supporter of the National No-Tillage Conference. So with that said, I want to thank you all for joining us. I'm going to turn over the controls to Mike. And good evening, Mike. How are things in the center of Indiana tonight?
Good evening, everyone. Things are cold here in central Indiana, but I guess it's that time of the year. Thanksgiving's around the corner. It's a good time to be thankful and hang out with family, and nothing like sitting around eating and watching NFL football. So it's a good time of the year for central Indiana here. If anybody gets a phone call from Daryl asking to do something, to do a webinar, be prepared. You're supposed to put a PowerPoint together, and being the non-technician farmer that I am, I hope I can pull this off tonight. So let's get started with it, and we'll figure out. We'll hopefully learn from each other on this. A little background information. I thought I'd better tell you who I am and what our family is. That's me on the left there, my brother Dave in the middle, my nephew Jeff. Jeff and I have been doing this together ever since my father was killed in the farming accident in 1986. But west side of Indianapolis, very urban area there that we live in. And like Daryl said, we are our farm. A lot of our farm brand goes right into the drinking water of Indianapolis water there. This is a full-time employee of ours, A.J. Atkins. He hung around the farm since he's 14, I think, and graduated from Purdue. Got his degree. We told him to go get a real job. That lasted about 4 months, and then he came back to farm, but has a nice side business on the side of selling planter attachments, fertilizer equipment, and has his own company called NTM. And it's been a lot of fun for all of us. And of course, my son Nick, we call him the jack of all trades. You probably see Nick hanging around with me at the no-till conferences. Our soil here in central Indiana it's kind of a deep, poorly drained. It's called Brookston Crosby. A lot of most of that, some Miami. But if it's drained well, it has a lot of high yield potential. But you got to manage it right. 2002, I was kind of at a standstill. Input costs were going up. Our yields were plateauing. So it's either I got to get out of farming or we got to make a major change. And at that time, we farmed 3,000 acres. We're doing about the same amount of acres now. Had a soybean planter that's kind of like an air seeder. Just went across the field, no-till. We'd been no-tilling soybeans since 1989. And we had a one-pass tool that we did right in front of our corn. Had a Kenzie planter loaded up with these Oshman coulters. Put some 28% on with the planter at 10 gallon per acre. I had lime coming from various sources, meaning that I didn't know if they had high calcium lime, high mag lime. I just, said lime's lime. And I side dressed NH3, and I was soil sampling by grids, analyzed by the local co-op. And the frustration was when I came back to the co-op, recommendations sometimes said, you know, you just need to put more P&K down, and something had to give. I just want to let you, I always say this in one of my presentations, this is my opinion only. I don't want to tick anybody off with saying Mike Starkey knows the only way it's his, but I just want to let you know it's my opinion only. So take it as is. My goals back in 2002, I wanted to reduce my fertilizer application rates. I just way too high. I thought I was just salting the earth. I wanted to figure out how can I get my fertilizer released to my crop that I've been putting on all those years. I mean, was it going on the bank? Where was it going all those years? I mean, I sure wasn't getting it back to the corn crop and the soybeans. I had some compaction issues. I remember taking an anhydrous bar side dressing and the tractor just pulling the heck out of the tractor sometimes in certain areas of the field, and I knew that was a big problem. I want a more accurate soil test, meaning that on my grid sampling, I knew that where I was taking a grid, sometimes I was in an area that was a lighter soil, and right next to it was a darker soil. So I had an issue with that. And then I had all this yield data and all this information about soil tests. What was I going to do with all that? I just wasn't putting it to use at all. And of course, like everybody wants to do as a farmer, we want to have higher, more consistent yields. Since then, we're 100% no-till, meaning that this year we did do some tiling, so we're going to have to correct some of the issues of leveling out those tile lines that we put in, but I consider myself 100% no-tiller. We have used cover crops for, I think this is our 9th year. Started off with annual ryegrass, now we're diversifying with other cover crops. Take soil tests by an independent, I take it by soil type and management zones, and I use an independent agronomist as a consultant, not my fertilizer dealer, or not somebody that's selling me a product. Very important now, I'm spoon feeding my nitrogen. The first drop of nitrogen doesn't go down until we start planting corn. And major planter setup changes, and I'll show you a few pictures of that. And I'll have to tell you that AJ's really helped out quite a bit with that. And you're not going to get a raise tomorrow, AJ, if you're hearing this. Results from changes. Since then, we had dramatic reduction of fertilizer use. Gosh, the times of the 200 pounds of potash, the 100 pounds of phosphorus days are over with. The 225 pounds of nitrogen days are over with. And the exciting part is our organic matter has been increasing by what we're doing. I have to attribute that not only to no-till practices, but with our cover crops. I look back from a soil test I just was going to show you here in a little bit, but just that one field alone has increased in organic matter almost 1%, which that's pretty big time in a 10-year period. Major improvement in soil structure. It's really fun to go out and take a probe and stick it in the soil and let it go to China. Drainage improved considerably. I remember the days when we had a rain, even just an inch rain, there'd be water ponding out in the field. Now with air, the pores we have, the oxygen movement, we have more water that's going back to the tiles that weren't used. It just seems like the tile lines have woke up. And the fun part is yields have been consistently increasing. Some of the planter changes, we used to use the Keaton C firmer. We used to have reduced inner diameter gauge wheels. I'm not knocking this, but we have changed from that. We used to have a John Deere coulter, fertilized coulter. That's a good program, but we've gone on now. We used to have Air Force by automatic. I'm sure everybody's seen this from Precision, but air force, but now we have hydraulic air force, instantaneous down pressure on our planter. We used to have the Martin floating row cleaners. Now we have the GFX Dawn row cleaners, hydraulic. This is a simple, real quick picture of our planter now. I don't know if I can get the pointer on this. This is our GFX row cleaners. As you see, we don't have the Keatons. As you see, we went back to the Deere gauge wheels. In the front here, I don't have show you, but now we're going to have the CFX fertilized colders, giving instantaneous sensing. We have hydraulic down pressure, which you can't see on this, but instead of the air pressure that was slow to release, when we need down pressure as we go across the field, we get it instantaneous now. We have the Dawn Curvatine closing wheels now, which is perfect for our cover crop. Perfect closing action for when we put any kind of kernel in the ground. We don't need that Keaton C firmer. The Dawn closing wheels does the firming for us. We have radishes, we have annual ryegrass, we have several other cover crops. This is a field of ours just this past spring of annual ryegrass that's flowing on now. We used to drill on, and now it's fun having it flowing on by everything. This is me spraying to spring some of that cover crop. What major changes we have had in just in a 10-year period? What's going to happen the next 10 years? Who knows, but it's been fun. This is some cereal rye that we just killed this spring. We planted soybeans into this. And here's the soybeans growing through the cereal rye. Look at all the carbon we're getting out of the cereal rye for our soil. And this is our planter as we go across the field. As you see, we have several different tanks on that planter, but different recipes of fertilize. Whatever that field needs, we have a recipe for. And this is actually planting through some annual ryegrass this spring. This spring also, AJ had a comparison. We always are looking at how can we improve our setup, and we have on the far left here the closing wheels from the Curvatine from Dawn. We had the Schlegels. We had the drag chain with the Martins. We want to see what's best for the optimum techniques for planter setup. And of course, you want to see the perfect stand as you go across the field. That's just, right after planting 3 weeks earlier that I killed some my cover crop. And this is kind of fun. I never had this happen this fall. Our yields have been increasing, but my yield monitor, when I saw that 3 in front this year, I just had to take a picture or two of it. So, yeah, yields have increased. Now, this, I have to tell you, I'm not saying our fields average this across the field. You think Starkey's a big liar about this, but yeah, I saw that yield monitor get up with a 3 in front of it this year, and it was a lot of fun. Whenever I take a soil test, I look for the optimum balancing of the soil, and this is where the results I'd love to see whenever I take a soil test. I'd like to see my calcium levels at 85%, magnesium 10, potassium levels 2 to 5%, phosphorus 12.5 to 50, sulfur 15 to 150, and hydrogen 5%, and sodium 0.1. This is where I'm striving for. And I just had to grab a soil test a couple of nights ago and scan it off, and this is one of our fields. And I'm looking, I'm not getting that on my phosphorus. Going back here, I want my phosphorus at 12.5 to 50. Look at my phosphorus. They are just horrible. 13, 10, 15, 16, 38. And I'm thinking, well, that's not my balancing of my soil. But again, there's a reason for that, which I hope I can explain to y'all. Calcium levels, as you see, I have pretty decent calcium levels. Happy with that. Mag levels, right on kind of where I want it. Potassium, I'm low on that. 1.5. These are low numbers here. I love the pH like that, and this organic matter. You know, that may not be high for you people in Illinois if you're listening, but here in Central Indiana, that's not bad. But the exciting part is, like I said, those were high ones 10 years ago. So that's the fun part about seeing this work. But the phosphorus, let's go back to that. I always go back. I had this in a file and it just fits me to a T, where it says phosphorus is virtually immobile in soil and wants to link it chemically with elements calcium, iron, and aluminum. Well, that's me. If phosphorus in a loamy soil, I have the clay loamy soil, is more than 1 inch, 1/4 of an inch from the root, it will never move close enough to be taken up. And as you see at the bottom here, you know, if we surface band the phosphorus there, which is me, it's not going to move down to that corn plant where I need it. And unbelievable, out of nowhere, it's a No-Till Farmer newsletter, which I think is a great newsletter. It's great information. This article here that I just happened to read this last week, and I go, oh my gosh, this is me. And I don't know who Laura Allen is, Daryl, but boy, did she, if you wouldn't know any better, she was interviewing me on this. But what I thought was really interesting, there's a phosphorus response early, particularly with corn, even in high phosphorus soils. But it has to be released through biological procedure. And a lot of the soil microbes, which I am in a no-till situation, the process aren't working yet in cold soils when we first start planting corn. Well, over here, it said it showed it took 22 years for phosphate to fuse 1 inch in soil that had a phosphorus level of 46 parts per million. And then you go on down, and next paragraph says challenges with phosphorus. In addition to diffusion, there are other considerations no-tillers should keep in mind that may create challenges for phosphorus uptake. Stratification is one of them. Stratification is my problem. That's reading. My soil tests are taken at 6-inch depth. But if you've taken a soil test in the upper majority of top 3 inches of the soil profile with a concentration of 65 parts per million. Depths greater than 6 inches in the no-till system had a phosphorus concentration of less than 10 parts per million. What did I go back to my soil test here and see my phosphorus levels? There I am at 13, 10, 15, 16, 38. I wish I'd taken a soil test from this farm the same time, and I can almost guarantee you the results of that phosphorus level would be 4 to 6 times more. And a big problem is phosphorus tie-up. So when applied to the soil, the phosphorus in these products precipitates, or we say is fixed. In order to be absorbed by a plant, phosphorus has to be in an orthophosphate form and be in a solution. And at the bottom right of that paragraph, down at the bottom page there, here I got my pointer real quick there. Calcium in the soil can tie up orthophosphate from fertilizer and it will precipitate out of solution. Well, my word, look at my calcium levels that I had. Going back to that, calcium, 75, my first results, up over 83. I have a lot of calcium in my soils, which is what I want. I mean, I like to have my calcium levels at those levels, but if I do that, if I broadcast phosphorus, the chances are, the chances of tie-up are higher when soil has a high pH level. Phosphorus is broadcast applied, especially when you have more calcium in the soil. So going back to this article, that fits me to a T, and therefore that's the reason I think it's critical for my situation to have an in-furrow application of phosphorus, which is what I use in this ProGerm. Take a soil test. Some fields are lower than others. What's nice about this Agro-Liquid product is I can tell them a recipe, what I want for that field based on my soil test. So if I need more ProGerm or more Sure-K or more microbes, I tell them what my recipe is. This is what I'm going to use on that field, or this is what I'm going to use for 400 acres. That's what's made up. So on majority of our farm, I have an in-furrow application of 4.5 gallon of ProGerm with 2 quarts of Micro 500. Now, why the Micro 500? On that soil test, I don't know if you noticed or not, but that alone, I was pretty low in boron, and so therefore, that's one micronutrient that I need. But back in the grandfather's days, the great-grandfather's days, you know, everybody had livestock or hogs or cattle. We spread that manure out there. We got our microbes out of that. Well, we don't have those livestock days anymore. And those microbes are getting away from us. So therefore, we need to feed our crop not only with N, P, and K, which are our normal amount of fertilizer, but these microbes can show up, and that would be the only thing you need. 1 gallon of ProGerm is equivalent to 13 pounds of phosphorus. So in other words, when I put down 4.5 gallons of ProGerm, I have 58.5 pounds of phosphorus right in the seed, which is what I want early on for that corn. I also have on the planter a nitrogen sideband. In no-till planting, it's so critical to have nitrogen on your planter. And we have found out that we need anywhere a minimum of 60 to 80 pounds of nitrogen on the planter to start off with. Depends what time of the year you're starting planting, but early on we can go up to 75 pounds if we need. Later on you can get away with less amount. But with the cover crops, especially with the grass coverage crops that are huge scavengers for nitrogen, you must put on more nitrogen on with your planter. So therefore, with our in-furrow, we also have a sideband of either 16 gallon of high energy N, which is an Agro-Liquid product, or 25 gallon at 28% with thio. And whenever we put nitrogen on, we have to put the sulfur on, and that's what the thiazole is. And been using thiazole since 2002, and seen with and without results. And with our plants, you know, we don't have the emissions like we used to out there, so therefore we don't have the sulfur like we used to. So it's very critical that we apply the sulfur. 1 gallon of high energy N equals 4.5 pounds of nitrogen with sulfur. So therefore, if we use 16 gallons of high energy N, we have 72 pounds of actual nitrogen with the planter. And what I like about the high energy N is that it's more efficient and usable than just using 28. But you can use 28, which we go back and forth with. It's either we side dress with 28, or we put it on with the planter, or vice versa, side dress with the high energy N. And the reason being, we like the diversification of our nitrogen source. Anhydrous ammonia, that'd be another nitrogen source you can side dress with. But we like the high energy N because with the planter, you can use less volume, so therefore more acres, not having to stop for a pit stop as much. And then at the bottom there, we side dress an additional amount of nitrogen, 60 to 80 pounds BRT based on management zones. Well, we have found out that the maximum amount of nitrogen that we need on our farm, on our soil, our sweet spot is that 140 to 170 pound range of total nitrogen. And how do we know that? Well, this is just an old thing, a chart I pulled out. I think this is 2009. Not great yield results. We didn't have not 2009. That's a good year. 2010. I think this is 2010. Anyway, every year we like to have side-by-side strip trials to see what's the best optimum amount of nitrogen put down. And with the planter at the 70-pound rate or 75-pound rate, then we come back. It's a flat amount with the planter. Then we come back with side dress amount with DRT. And as you see there, that sweet spot. I mean, we're when we go past that 170-pound range, we don't actually increase in yield, and our nitrogen is just actually wasted. This is 2011. What we found out on this one, again, side dressing, we got 71 pounds with the planter. As you see with the Flex hybrid, it jumped up considerably, where we went from 20 gallon to 25 gallon. And then when we went to 30, we only went increase in yield 5 bushel. And we went to 35 and only increase it 1 bushel. So there again, that 160 pound, 170 pound range is our optimum level. Now there at the bottom there, another product that Agro-Liquid has, which it's really not that expensive, which I feel it's a very good return on investment. It's called Enhance. It's a sulfur source, and also I don't know, it just seems like it uses the 28% utilizes it go better for the corn plant. It jumped up quite a bit just by adding Enhance at the 20 gallon rate. So therefore, we have seen results where we can actually reduce our amount of nitrogen. I'm not saying go out and cut it a bunch, but just something like 5 gallon right there, which is by adding a product called Enhance. This is our applicator that we use. We use VRT, but the reason I took this picture, I kind of sneaked in there, and there's these blades behind here. That is a disc back there, and I just want to let you know we don't have that disc anymore, so thought I'd throw that in there too. Okay, on our potassium program, we have we broadcast and we go in furrow with potassium on our corn, and our soybeans. We're starting to go toward the foiler applying the potassium, which is called Sure-K. Again, we go back to soil tests. If our soil tests are low in potassium, we can add that in furrow, or we can add it in the sideband if we want to. But if it's low, we can add a product called Sure-K, where 1 gallon of Sure-K equals 13 pounds of potassium. Not much volume, but a lot of pounds. And this year, foliar applied, I bet we foliar applied 90% of our soybeans with Sure-K this year, the soybeans. And the reason being because of the price of soybeans being so high, I want to maximize our gross dollars per acre without much of input costs. But with the price of beans the way they were and the yield potential we had of our soybeans, great start. Unfortunately, it turned dry late August or mid-August to late August. Well, back practically all of August. We could have had some awesome beans. But again, I'll show you here in a little bit, but we still saw some results from the Sure-K. And we also still broadcast potassium because talking to my fertilizer consultant, independent fertilizer consultant, we just feel in the future that these bean yields can be a lot better. And we're talking not just 60 bushel, but we're talking 70 bushel with the varieties that are coming on with the genetics and our management, that we should be right around the corner with 70 bushel soybeans. So therefore, I want to keep my potassium levels up. Again, potassium moves a lot better than phosphorus. This is a yield map. I just had to scan it last night. I was going through some things, and this is we use the Apex system, and so what I did, I kind of transitioned what I sprayed to our yield map, and in the middle there, the lighter part is an area, this area right here, is where I did not apply the Sure K foiler, and this area here is where I did apply Sure K foiler, and it's around the 3 gallon per acre rate. And what I you know, the thing about this PowerPoint, what I learned is how to figure out do a PowerPoint. I just made myself do it, but I was pretty proud of myself. I cut and scanned this last night, and that area there in the middle yielded 58.5 bushels per acre. And then where I applied the Sure K right next to it, that area was 63.6 bushel per acre. So every, oh, I wouldn't say every field, but most of my fields, when I apply something or do something, I always like to do side-by-side comparisons, see if it's worth doing or not, or worth the input costs. And with 5 bushel per acre, $13 soybeans, $15 input, I really, that's a pretty good return on investment. So I was pretty happy with, I'm glad we did apply the Sure K, because I saw anywhere consistently this year 3 to 5 bushel per bushel increase on the soybeans. Again, the 58.5, that was it's like 6.5 acres, and then I did the 7.72, just compared what I had and 5 bushel more per acre. When I typed this up the other day, I noticed, man, I guess I'm ready for 2014, but no, this is 2013, a plot that we did on the farm, comparing different applications of liquid fertilizer. What's the best optimum recipe to put together? And when I first looked at this and analyzed it, I'm thinking, boy, this does not look good for a soil for a test. But let's go through it together here. This is our sideband application of high energy N, 14 gallon per acre. N furrow, 6 gallon per acre, ProGerm, and yield results 177.5. Right next to it, I had 1034.0 in furrow, same amount of high energy N, 12 bushel less. Without the in furrow, 14 gallon, about the same results as the 1034.0. With 28%, not the high energy N, without the in furrow, about the same results. So we call that a wash again. But then look at the big jump here. And looking where I did these strip tests, what the heck happened here? Why 167 clear up to 185? Well, this part of the field is really good black dirt. This part of the field here is lighter soil. So let's compare the results of the darker soil compared to the lighter soil. So we say, okay, 28%, 14 gallon per acre, with 6 gallon in furrow, 185.8. By the way, this is planted late this year, so our corn, you know, you're thinking, oh, Starkey's corn is pretty lousy. Well, it was planted pretty late, and we had a lot of rain afterwards, so that's pretty good for this farm, considering when we planted. 28% in, 14 gallon with 1034.0, it's a wash. But and up here, there's 12 bushel difference. So what's that telling me? Well, I really feel that the in furrow was not needed, because this is the black dirt. This is high phosphorus soil. This is high K soil. This is good soil. So if that's the case, I did not need that in furrow in this area here. But is that going to happen everywhere? I don't think so. But it did pay off up here. So in my opinion, again, the darker soils did not need the in-furrow. It sure helped on the nitrogen. The product I told you about earlier, Enhance, 28% with Enhance, there's no yield difference. Actually went down a little bit. Why is that? I don't know, but I've used it in the field side by sides everywhere. But one on maybe 14 gallon, 28 is more than enough nitrogen that's needed. So therefore, it'd be interesting if I did that again, let's say 10 gallon of 28 with Enhance, and see if my yield would stay the same. Again, as I told you earlier, Enhance, I found out you can actually reduce the amount of fertilizer, your 28%, not a lot, but somewhat. And then going down with my ProGerm in-furrow, 185.3 with the Enhance, which was the same as the 28% with the ProGerm. And at the very bottom, the 28% nitrogen at the 21 gallon rate. It actually went down. So therefore, again, maybe I didn't need that amount of nitrogen as a side dress, with the planter. I side dressed a flat amount with all these at 80-pound rates. But at that total amount of nitrogen in that area, maybe I didn't need that amount, especially with this planting date being so late, May 30th. Another theory is it's just another part of observing your soil test and your strip test, but that's my opinion of what happened. In conclusion, every year we have challenges just like this. This year was awesome, except for the dry August. It could have been better yet. And with that, we definitely have to be open to change. Every year we have to fine-tune our application of fertilizer, whether it be liquid or dry. And next year is even going to be more critical yet with our commodity prices being at where they are. Is it worth spending the money to get 450 corn? I'm going to continue monitoring the soil tests and yield data. That's the reason we that's the reason we have the technology. That's just ongoing. And again, at the bottom, review annually what's the best return on investment for fertilizer versus price of grain. Next year is a heck of a lot different than what we had in the last 3 years. Is it worth spending the extra amount for 5 gallon of 28 or more phosphorus or more potassium versus the price of what we're going to get back in return? Every year, AJ and I have a planter clinic. I want to throw this in, a little free advertising since I'm on here. This year, our planter clinic's December 16th. Do I even have that on there? I don't. Maybe I cut that off. But it's December 16th at our farm, and it's free. But all we ask is the RSVP. Last year we had over 150 attendees, and this year we're having Paul Joseph from University of Nebraska. I think it's really going to be good hearing his inputs. He's very good on knowledge on his observations of his research. So I'd like to invite anybody that comes to Central Indiana attend our planter clinic. If you want more information, email me and I'll send you a flyer. With that, Daryl, I think I'm done.
All right. Hey, thank you, Mike. Yeah, we do want to take some questions here. And by the way, that is a good-looking lineup for your clinic. And I know we got a big deadline that week, but we're going to try and get somebody down there for that because you got quite a lineup going. Again, if you got any questions, you can enter them into the GoToWebinar control panel under questions. I got a couple here maybe to start here, Mike, that you can try and answer. Why don't you just, first of all, just take us through again, in general, the timings that you make your different applications, say starting in corn and just in general what you're doing. And I want to start like after harvest, for example. Are you doing anything in the fall as far as fertilizer application, and how does that compare to the past?
Well, we started taking soil tests the last couple of years in the spring. Feel that the biology of the soil wakes up better, and we have better results. So therefore, take soil tests in the spring, look at that, gives us time to decide what we need to do in the fall. Obviously, lime is a priority. Look at that, but we have been applying potassium. We applied quite a bit of potassium this past fall because the prices were down for one thing, but no phosphorus. The phosphorus just goes on with the planter. We just feel, why broadcast phosphorus over the top if it's not going to be utilized?
Mm-hmm.
And having an in-furrow, it's going to be utilized. So, and then it all starts with just some potassium in the fall, and then nothing else until planting time with the planter.
Okay. So let me add, do you deep place any nutrients? Would you say that, how far where are you placing your nutrients basically, and are you deep placing any of them?
Yes and no. The deep placement from our nutrients is we feel from our cover crops. Our roots go down glacial till 4 to 5 feet deep. I really feel that they're pulling nutrients up with our biological activity, earthworms, microbes, but with mechanically, no, we don't detail any nutrients.
And to what degree do you believe your cover crops are helping you from a nutrient standpoint, as far as possibly reducing the amount of nutrients that you've been applying?
That's the $10 million question. I don't know. More for the nitrogen source, I think, than the phosphorus and the potassium. But it's unfortunate we don't have a lot of research on that, and we need that. So, and it would be hard to do research for, but I don't know.
Sure, no, that's fair. To what extent have you been utilizing gypsum at all in your program, as far as trying to improve air or water management with your soils?
Well, if our calcium levels are low and our magnesium levels are high and our pH is good, well, a good source would be gypsum, and it's a good sulfur source. So I don't have any problem applying gypsum at all, but if my soil test says they don't need it, I'm not going to apply it just for the funsies of it. If I'm going to apply sulfur, we have products out there that we can use to apply it with. But gypsum will only be used if the calcium and magnesium levels call for it.
Okay.
And we have used gypsum. We have used gypsum in the past, and especially on newly rented ground, calcium, magnesium levels are way off, but the pH is there. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay. Do you, remind me, do you run your own sprayer for the most part?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It's critical for no-till. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you how much are you putting on any fertilizer with the sprayer while you're making your herbicide sprays, or are you using anything like getting closer to tasseling where you're able to come in with a sprayer yet and put on some fertilizer?
Actually, mixed some in with fungicide this year, aerial, and I thought it paid off big time. The only problem was our corn was pretty wet this fall. Whether it was because of the fungicide with the high energy N and the Progen that we have mixed in with it, I don't know. But yes, we did mix that in with our fungicide. Also, we have wheat, and I applied some high energy N I did strip trials with and without that the flag leaf stage, and I had dramatic yield increases with my wheat applying the high energy N at the flag leaf stage, and I'm going to do it again.
Okay. What another question I had you had to deal with, and maybe you don't have a comparison, maybe you do. You might have a comparison if you've rented some new ground that was tilled before, but the question basically was, can you do you know, or do you have some kind of comparison to no-till corn versus tilled corn as far as what you might have seen with nitrogen rates or nitrogen use efficiency, as far as in avoiding runoff and leaching, and that would be comparing no-till corn to something tilled. And I know you've been in no-till for a while, but maybe you've had to come out. You've got some ground that you rented, perhaps that was tilled, and have you seen any comparisons to those farms where you've been in no-till for a long time versus maybe something that you're just transitioning over?
Well, in our area, 80% of the ground is either strip tilled or no till, but we do have a little bit of conventional till, and it's good to see our corn looking really green, especially last year late in the season, because the conventional till corn was just firing like crazy in August. So just driving down the road, I've seen the difference, but on newly rented ground, I haven't seen that, Daryl. So I guess just my own past experience is what I noticed converting over from the conventional till to no-till. Dramatic. It's not like we plateaued out like we did in the past.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Have you found whether high energy N could burn wheat or corn like you possibly could with 28%? Have you noticed anything there?
I did it this spring, and I didn't burn it. I was holding my breath, and I actually put on more with the sprayer than what I wanted to because I didn't have the right tips on to start off with. But I was really surprised at the amount that I put on. I did not burn it at all. So I think it's a great nitrogen source to put on wheat, and
Okay.
without stunning it or burning it. No, I didn't burn it at all.
Okay. Do you happen to know what percent ortho is within Pro Germinator? Do you happen to know that at all?
I'm not an expert on that. I called Dr. Jerry on that one.
That's all right.
Maybe that's a confidential thing anyway. I don't know. I can't help you on that.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. We don't expect you to know everything here. Well, sometimes I do, but
oh yeah, right.
We'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that.
Okay.
Have you done any work with anhydrous ammonia in any of your trials to try and get any comparisons with that at all?
No, because you've been in my area. I mean, I have a lot of houses around here, and you pull an anhydrous tank down the road around here, people are like, "What the heck are you doing now, farmer?" So it's not safe around here, but I don't have a problem with anhydrous ammonia. It's another diverse a source of nitrogen that's out there. So, but it's the safety and the use, and gosh, it's so easy to put 28 on compared to anhydrous ammonia. When I started side dressing with 28, I get, where has this been? It's kind of nice that heck, you can read your email while you're side dressing with 28. With your phone compared to what it used to be with the anhydrous. So,
this is kind of this is a follow-up question, I think, regarding the use of high energy to the wheat. And when did you apply the high energy N to the wheat?
Right at flag leaf stage. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was early, late March, around there. Or was it? I don't know. Yeah, flag leaf. Yeah.
Another good question. Like we talked about how you're in that watershed area. So with the changes you've made through the years to your program, and I know they do a lot of monitoring, and you've got tile lines and different things running off. What have you
Hmm.
been seeing as far as what is actually coming off of your farm? And do you have any comparisons to the past? What have you seen happening?
Well, that's another PowerPoint. But make it short, we've been working with this local university for Bob Barr for what 7 years now, and actually we're going to do another study, a 6-year study, which is pretty cool through NRCS. But it's the next stage of monitoring. But we've had Bob's just totally amazed with what he's seen on our farm compared to neighboring farms that are conventional till, especially, and actually from um, even subdivisions. Dramatic decrease in our uh, phosphorus and nitrates compared to what he's seen with what it's supposed to be. He said, and in addition to that, he's totally amazed about the water being absorbed like a sponge out there in the field. Uh, the the tiles don't start flowing until at least a half inch to an inch rain, and he just feels he's just totally amazed with our soils that uh, there's no water standing out there, and that's
Hmm.
what we like to.
If you don't mind, just talk about your planter again a little bit, how you've got it set up from a fertility standpoint, what you're all applying with. Because seeing a lot of tanks out there, you're pulling a cart behind it too, and is it
Hmm.
is it a complicated system? Are you carrying a lot of weight? But how is it all set up again, if
No,
you don't mind?
well, now it's all hydraulic, which is nice. No air, down pressure. But on the front we have the CFX fertilized coaters. These are new coaters that come out with Don, sensing the soil for down pressure. Tells the little computer to tell the planter how much down pressure to put on, the instantaneous down pressure. We have infurl, a tube right on the frog for infurl, goes right in the bottom of the seed trench. We don't have any Keaton seed firmers because with the Don curvatines, you do not need those. It's like uh, squeezing the soil together. Uh, but and we have the GFX row cleaners, which is they're expensive, but my gosh, once you get them, it's an incredible row cleaner how user friendly they are, and they just do the job in any type of cover crop. So the cart we pull behind, Daryl, we have our big amount of the big tanks hold the either 28% with IO or the high energy in, and the smaller tanks hold the uh, the Infurl Pro Germ with microbes or Sure K, and that's what we put in for. But
Okay.
um, we can also unhook that cart and just use our saddle tanks also, because two tanks on the planter on one side handles the the nitrogen source, and the other two tanks handle the infurl.
Okay. Do you run any controlled traffic at all?
No, we don't. I guess that's the next step that we have to take. But with our different, I should say, different operators, grain carts, we lease a combine. We also run a combine, different heads. Got a 40-foot draper, and then the other combine has just a 30-foot head. So for beans. So until that's all matched together, no, we don't run controlled traffic yet.
Okay. Yeah. One final question is, I mean, do you feel in a sense what you're doing is you're kind of using low test products, you're using lower rates. When you look at your soil test, do you have any concerns that you're depleting the soil at all? I mean, give me and that's a question that comes up quite often at the No-Till conference. We hear people talking about their
Hmm.
fertility programs. Have you got any concerns about, uh, from what you're seeing there, that you could be, so to
Right.
speak, depleting the soil?
When you see those phosphorus levels as low as they are, you do get concerned. But then if you take the soil test up above there and you feel like, oh, it's there, it's just not down in the 6-inch profile where I'm taking those soil tests. Now, if I was a conventional till, I'd be really concerned because, we're not getting any release from the biological activity in that soil that's been in the bank all these years. So we're getting a lot of release from the soil now, and therefore our needed soil tests are different from the conventional till people. So therefore, I like the idea of putting fertilizer on what the plant needs that year and not try to, I hate that word build up, but that's what we heard in the past. You need to build up, build up. Well, it just wasn't building up. I don't care. And then I showed you that yield monitor when that 300 bushel, when you go across the field and you see that 300 bushel show up, well, it's not because of the build up. It's just because of what the soil is doing for you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike. We're going to wrap it up here, but before we conclude, I just want to give you a heads up that when you log off tonight, you'll receive a questionnaire to complete. It's a very simple, easy one to complete, a small number of questions, and we love your answers to help us determine the value of tonight's webinar, and it also helps us with planning for future ones. Second, we will be making available via email to you a replay of tonight's webinar in the event you'd like to go back and review the entire presentation or some parts of it. You'll also find that replay is going to be up on our No-Till Farmer website shortly. We've got an archive section there. You can go back and listen to other webinars as well. And I really do want to thank Mike for leading this discussion. Did a good job with it. You did fine with your PowerPoint, Mike. Don't worry about that.
Thanks, Daryl.
And I want to really thank the folks at Agro-Culture for sponsoring the webinar, and I want to also recognize and thank our producer tonight, Cole Vandermouse, for taking care of us. And so, hey, we wish you all a great evening and especially a very happy Thanksgiving, and we look forward to having you join us again at a future webinar. So have a great evening, everybody.